Week 1 of the NFL season is here tonight, and we are in full preview mode. Niners, Jets, Monday Night Football, plus Levin's idol Steve Young had a very interesting take on what the Niners face this season. We'll get to all of it on today's Gold Standard podcast. What is good, everybody? Welcome to the Gold Standard podcast on the Gold Standard and the Fans First Sports Network. I am Rob Stats Guerrera. He is Levin Black. Levin, the season begins tonight. I'm very excited about it, but I can't help but feel a twinge of pain because if a butterfly had flapped its wings differently in February, the 49ers would be playing in this game.
Yeah, I just kid's first day of pre-K. And I've never wanted to drop kick another child more than when I went into the classroom. And what is the first classmate I see wearing but a Patrick Mahomes Super Bowl jersey from that Super Bowl? It's like, really? I can't even take my kid to school without it being thrown in my face?
You were tested early, my friend. I'm glad that all children remain safe around you. I'm glad we haven't.
Yes, I did not drop kick the child, but it was very much a, really? Come on.
Modelo Time 1999 on Twitch. Shout out to you. This is Morning Boys. Good morning, everybody. Hope you're having a good day. Going to talk quite a bit about Niners Jets, obviously, since that's the week 1 game. Nice to be able to sink our teeth into an actual football matchup that counts in the standings. But Levin, I do have to ask you, Brandon Ayuk here, Trent Williams here, contract signed, things done. There's no more like stuff hanging over the 49ers. Even the Ricky Pearsall thing is turning out as good as we could have possibly hoped for before week 1. Right now, like, things are good in 49er land.
Yeah, we should all be excited. If you're a fan, celebrating. I know some people out there that cover the team are not fans because they're, true journalists. We straddle that line of trying to be objective and a fan. And everything should be positive. There's only one negative story out there this whole week, and we're going to probably avoid that on this show because it just gets my blood boiling. It is everything worked out. It's one of those things like now's not the time because nobody's going to want to hear it right now. But it should be said, everything worked out. It could have just worked out a month ago.
Right. And yeah, ultimately, it's done, so that's good, but it doesn't mean it was done perfectly or even in a logical way. Frankly, Steph Sanchez is watching. Shout out to Steph, her channel, the 49 Carats channel. You should go and like and subscribe to that. She's here to annoy me again. We did a show together yesterday. Steph called me old in the nicest possible way yesterday. Every time I do her show, she does like a this moment in 49ers history, like a way back Wednesday type of thing. And so this week's was Niners Jets in 1998, I think it was. And of course, the game ended on Garrison. I know you know the play, Garrison Hurst, 96-yard touchdown run. And she loves to ask me, like, do you remember that play? Like, what was it like? And it's like, yes, Steph, I know I'm old. I was here for a lot of the old 49er moments. She does it very nicely, but she does do it.
I do remember that play. It's my favorite play that I got to watch live. I mean, we did not grow up in San Francisco. Watching 49er games back before Sunday Ticket was a difficult thing. But I saw that game at my grandparents', and I remember going to overtime and being nervous. And then that was the way overtime started. And I just remember like thinking he's caught, and then he gets the stiff arm, and I'm going, oh my God, is he going to make it? And then that player's coming in at the end, and T.O. makes the block 70 yards down the field to spring him again. And then I remember him getting tackled and not being sure if he actually got into the end zone or not. I remember all of that. I am old.
Right. And I remember it like clearly too. That's the thing. It's like not even like, oh, it's this hazy play.
It's one of those plays that if you watched live, you're going to remember clearly because it hasn't happened since. It didn't happen before. There's never been a longer run in overtime for any team.
For any team?
Yeah, that's still the NFL record for overtime run.
Wow, there you go. I didn't know that last part of it.
It's like the third longest run in NFL history. There's only, I think there's a 97-yarder and a 98-yarder. I don't think there's ever been a 99-yard run. There's been 99-yard passes, but not runs, I don't think.
Okay, I'll take your word for it. D-Ware 5883 says stats: who won, Marshall or Purdue? Go Herd. Yeah, 11. Tell the folks who won that game in our college football 25 dynasty.
Yep, I made a mistake. I decided, you know what, I'm going to try to pass, see if I can pass. And of course, what was it, my second pass was a pick six. And it's like, oh, well, now I'm behind and I'm forced to pass. And Rob sat and basically dime and was able to take away. I tried all routes. Like we texted after the game, I always suck against humans, for one, but I tried out routes, I tried curl routes, I tried deep routes. What he was calling, everything was being covered up. And then on his offense, I think I got you in third and long like 4 times, and every single time you got to out route to number 10 that he was able to catch and then run more. And I remember after the first one, I was like, okay, if he runs that again, I'm going to call something. If I get in that situation again, I'm going to call something to stop it. I tried underneath zones. I tried man. I tried over the top zones. Nothing stopped that route for some reason.
In other words, I kicked your ass. That's a short recap. That's the too long, didn't read version. But then I got my ass kicked the next round in the college football playoffs. So we're in the off season.
Talk about the weirdest playoffs of all time. Did you see what this? I didn't notice that they were even in the playoffs until I went back in to try to get us to the next season. And it was Kentucky losing to Utah in the national championship. I was like, what? Neither one of those are going to sniff the playoffs.
Waltony 101 on Twitch says these sound a bit like excuses, Levin. I completely agree, Waltony. That's why we love the Twitch fam here.
Hey, I said I got beat. I'm just explaining why I got beat. I should have run. I got the ball first, and I had like a 4-minute where I just ran 12 times because I knew you were going to sit there and try to defend the pass.
Yep.
But I find running boring as heck. That's why I don't run.
That's your bad. I
got greedy.
All right, let's dive into 49ers Jets. I was doing some combing around the internet yesterday, and I came across a comment from Robert Saleh, who had his press conference earlier this week. And I thought he had a really interesting comment about Kyle Shanahan, because we've talked about it a lot and how much just Kyle adjusts and everything during games. Listen to Robert Saleh explaining what he thinks makes Kyle Shanahan so good.
As it goes, he's got his game plan, and then he's got the game that happens after the first quarter where he'll create plays on the sideline if he has to. But he is very, very good at recognizing the way players move and the players relate and the space that's created on defense by certain plays, and he just knows how to counterpunch, and he knows exactly when to counterpunch. He sees things on tape that gives him opportunities to exploit, and he's one of the best.
He'll draw plays on the sideline if he has to, Levin. I feel like that goes against one of your criticisms, Kyle. You think he's slow to adjust.
Well, that was the part that I took away. He said, there's the game plan, and then there's the game plan after the first quarter. It's like, hold on. We have seen time and time again, there aren't philosophical changes in terms of whether they're going to try to run or they're going to try to pass until the second half. There have been countless games where the Niners offense is sputtering in the first half, and then they come out in the second half and they're running completely different stuff. I don't believe that he changes after the first quarter. He might say, all right, we wanted to run and we thought we could run some traps to the left. That's now working. Let's run traps to the right. But that's not really changing the game plan.
I knew you'd find a way to poo-poo it. Sure, we've got Kyle Shanahan's former defensive coordinator who's intimately involved in the game plan for years with Kyle Shanahan saying he adjusts. But Levin isn't so sure.
Of course he's going to sugarcoat it and basically blow smoke. Of course. He might be looking for a job after the year.
Yeah, that's true. Heineman on Twitch says, yeah, there's a drawing plays on the sideline, and then there's no game plan after Debo gets injured. I mean, Kyle did admit that too. So that's I understand why you would have that philosophy. I just thought it was interesting. He also called Kyle a great human, which I feel like is always a little weird. When you refer to somebody else as a human, I always find that a little off-putting, but all right.
Why do you think he's part of the Matrix?
You never know.
There's the computer guy.
Yeah, no one has seen Robert Saleh's belly button. Maybe he's actually a machine. We don't know. I forgot how like big Robert Saleh is. When I was looking for pictures to go make the thumbnail, I was like, this dude is a freaking like he looks like he could beat the hell out of pretty much every other NFL coach except for maybe Dan Campbell.
That would be an interesting clash, that's for sure. Dan Campbell probably has height on him. I think Salah's only like 5'11",
Hmm.
maybe 6 foot, and Campbell's what, 6'3".
Yeah, well, yeah, Campbell's.
Can we get a celebrity death match return and have it just be like NFL coaches, and then afterwards they got to fight the champion of like the college football ranks?
I loved that show. Celebrity Deathmatch on MTV back in the day was very, very cool. Okay. So, Niners, Jets. One thing I have said is that the Jets are going to come out looking for blood because they want to announce to the AFC that, hey, we're the big bad Jets. Aaron Rodgers is healthy now, and we're to be taken seriously. We want to announce our presence with authority. And so I was interested to hear Steve Young on KMBR talk about having to overcome the Super Bowl hangover. And this is part of what Steve said.
The 49ers are the team, we talked about this last week, that everybody studies. Everybody's watching Kyle Shanahan's offense, trying to figure out, how do I defend it? Every team spent April and May and June doing that. And so when you're the focus of it all, when Brock Purdy now, everyone's got a book out on him after a couple of years. Everyone's got a book out on Debo. So it just, things get tougher. And if you don't get better, if you stay static, let's say the team that was last year stays neutral, I think things get harder by definition. So you have to get better. And I hope that we have.
Have we?
I think everywhere but linebacker, we should be improved at this point. A lot of it comes down to Brock Purdy. If he's taking the next step, yeah, everything else is going to be brought up with it, even if it hasn't improved. But I do think, the wide receivers, it's the same guys who are already vets, plus a rookie that actually has potential and maybe can actually do something in Cowling. And then you have obviously the Pearsall will come into play at some point later in the season. And obviously running back, I think Jordan Mason has improved. They talked about how he worked all offseason to improve his catching. I think the whole team has improved slightly in all aspects. It's whether or not it can come together. A lot of it's going to depend on Brock Purdy and how much he's truly improved, and obviously the defensive coordinator. I think the players there are veteran enough that you're not going to have too much of an issue in terms of that. But if the game plan's not matching, it could falter. That is certainly a risk. I'm more concerned about going into this game. What are the Jets going to look like? Because to me, they are the team that was, and we can call this the Wayback Machine, even though it feels like yesterday, probably to you and me, but they seem very much to me like the Niners before Harbaugh, where they had this great defense. And I remember having arguments with friends and family, like, the Niners defense is great. And then every time they'd be like, oh yeah, well, why'd they finish 12th in the rankings every year? And it's because the offense was so terrible. That's why. Well, The Jets had Zach Wilson, maybe the worst quarterback playing for an entire season there's been in many, many years, like decades. Zach Wilson was that bad, and they stuck with him for so many games that their quarterback play was atrocious, and that affected the defense and how good they looked. I'm really worried about the Jets. I think that defense could be dominant. I think that this could be a surprise, low-scoring game.
I have said the same exact thing about the Jets defense, that they're even better than they looked because the offense was constantly putting them on the field and turning the ball over. I completely agree with that. I think that they are really good. I said, I think with Steph or they're all blurring together now, but I said if you told me right now the Niners scored 23 points, I would take it because I just think that Jets defense is really, really good. And I'm fascinated to see. There's so many matchups in this game that I'm fascinated. We're going to dive into a bunch of them here when we play our little fill-in-the-blank game that we usually do. But I think there are interesting spots all over this defense. And big picture, I'm just anxious to see what this offense looks like against a very, very good defense because, Brock did not look the same against some of the best defenses that he faced last year.
Also, don't be surprised if there's some rust because Christian McCaffrey didn't play all preseason. Hasn't practiced until this week for a month since early on in training camp. Trent Williams just returning this week. There's going to be some rust there. I wouldn't be shocked to see, same with like Brandon Ayuk sat out until this week. If there's some timing issues with this offense, and it's one of those things where like the first 2-3 drives look really, really bad, and then they start to find things that work.
And the Shanahan offense in week 1, for the most part, not exactly a juggernaut if you look at the entirety of his coaching tenure. So that's something to keep in mind as well. I really think that Kyle's biggest advantage is when he gets data, when he has data and analyzing the data, figuring out this is what you do, this is what you don't do, this is what we can force you to do. In week 1, especially with this quarterback, because of what happened last year, he doesn't have any of that data. So he's not able to operate from a position of strength this time.
Yeah, and Saleh touched on that, that Kyle is able to break down film and see things that others don't. And he's able to also do that during the game.
Mm-hmm.
And as the season goes, there's obvious tendencies. And Kyle and other coaches and players even on that staff are really, really smart, and they can see, all right, if you run this, the defense adjusts to this. And so it's not just, oh, they like to run that, so we'll run something to beat that. It's no, if we line up this way, they adjust to this, which then we can run this to counter that. And it gets really complicated really quickly, but they're really, really good at it. The problem is I would argue in the NFL, defenses change much more in the offseason than offenses do. Offenses come out and say, this is what we do well. We're going to do it until you make us stop, until you stop us and make us change. Whereas the defenses go, all right, we had an offseason now to find the breakdown, all the offenses that we saw from last year. We're going to change our tendencies to thwart the things that they were doing successfully. And so when you come into the new season, the tendencies are completely different. And that's really what it boils down to, is as the season goes on, Kyle can see those tendencies, and the more games he has, the better and more confident he is that these are what they will adjust to.
And if I were Shanahan, what I would do is I would go watch the Packers in like 2019 when Nathaniel Hackett was the OC there with Aaron Rodgers. Nathaniel Hackett's the OC with the Jets because that's the offense that Aaron Rodgers wants to run. Now, the part that scares you a little bit is in that year, Aaron Rodgers threw for 4,002 yards, 26 touchdowns, and 4 interceptions. 4 interceptions all year long. That is very scary because I feel like this 49ers defense, particularly last year, would really thrive. And I don't want to say get bailed out because you earn a turnover, but like there were a lot of times where teams were going up and down the field on them and the Niners would get a turnover and obviously get the ball back, and that would end the drive. Aaron Rodgers is not like Matt Stafford or other quarterbacks. He's not going to give you a chance to intercept the football.
Yes and no. That's certainly true of the Aaron Rodgers we've seen in his career to date. He might be the best there's been at not turning the ball over. His turnover ratio is insanely low. But I do have to say, like, the Achilles heel does affect things to you. And are there going to be tight window throws that he thinks he can fit it in? And he's just that split second later now, and the ball ends up tipped or ends up flat out intercepted. Like, his timing is not going to be the same as what it was. Has he adjusted to that, considering that he's barely practiced?
Right. Barely practiced, hasn't played in the preseason, was not particularly good his last year in Green Bay for him. He did have 12 interceptions that year, which was the first time he had thrown double-digit interceptions in a season since 2010. That is crazy. This friggin' guy never puts the ball in harm's way. So, yeah, which Aaron Rodgers we see is going to be a big factor for sure. Let's get to our fill in the blank, because I think that's going to help us break down this game even more, Levin. So if you don't know, we do fill in the blank on Thursdays. I come up with a fascinating, just ultra compelling statement that has part of it missing, and Levin and I will each fill in the blank with our choices. Levin has not seen these. I love to spring them on him on the air, and we'll just start flat out with a very generic one. The most important matchup in this game is blank.
I will say whoever is marking Garrett Wilson for the Jets. If they can shut Wilson down, I think they have a really good shot of just torpedoing the Jets offense and keeping them, in the teens at best. Yeah, I wouldn't be shocked to see the Jets in the single digits in this game. But Garrett Wilson is the guy that if he gets going, I think everything else opens up.
I think he is awesome. I think Garrett Wilson is so good. And now that he has a quarterback that is not a complete dumpster fire, I think like he's going to be the star that we are talking about at the end of the year. Like, wow, that guy is unbelievable. If you're the Niners, would you just say Mooney Ward, you have Garrett Wilson and you go follow him wherever? Because they have done that in the past with certain wide receivers.
It's tough. If Garrett Wilson moves into the slot, I would still let Lenore take him, assuming he's going to be in the slot. But I would certainly not let the third corner, whoever it ends up being, be the one that's taking Wilson. You know, if he's on the outside, then have Ward cover him. If he's in the slot, you can let Lenore cover him. But if he's on, if he tries to go to the opposite outside, where he gets away from Ward and he gets to say Renardo Green, a rookie, no, swap.
Yeah, that's not ideal. That's not what you want. It'd be a hell of a test for Bernardo Green. Really, the Niners play a ton of good wide receivers this year. So this is a question, like whoever guards blank is going to be something that we come back to a lot in the game. And really, like, yeah, there's nobody else in the passing game for the Jets. I know they have, what's his name? The guy from the Chargers, Mike Williams.
Mike Williams, yeah.
Yeah, I'm not like, okay, maybe. But really, it's Garrett Wilson and Breece Hall are the two guys on the Jets that I want to stop, the position players anyway. So that's a good call by you. I'll try and go a different way. I'm going to go Kyle Shanahan, Robert Saleh in this one. I'm really fascinated by this because this is the first time that we are seeing Kyle go up against a defensive assistant, right? He's got a good record against McVay. He's beaten Mike McDaniel, but those are offensive guys. We've never seen Kyle go up against a defensive assistant of his. And remember, he and Saleh would get in shouting matches going over game plans and stuff when they were together. Now it was amicable, but clearly they had some disagreements on some certain things. And I'm sure Robert Saleh wants to say, I finally got my guy. I know I was right, and I'm going to prove it. And I want to see who has the upper hand in that battle because I think it's actually really, really interesting.
It is. Saleh was never, at least in my opinion, I remember we complained about it when he was the defensive coordinator. He was never the best X's and O's guy. He was good, but it was really like his energy. And then as the game went, I feel like he got dialed in better at shutting down the other team. But when it came to the game plan right off the bat, I mean, we remember we used to talk about how the defense is going to have a crap first drive. They're giving up a touchdown, but then they're going to lock in. So you got two people that are really good at countering and figuring out the other team. Is Saleh going to be able to do that? If the Niners go down on the first drive and score a touchdown, is he going to be able to make the adjustments, or is Kyle going to know what he's going to want to do and adjust against it? And, you know, it's the chess match. I know that you know that I know. So it's
right.
Who stopped countering first?
Or is it just like, just throw the ball to Debo and just have him piece six? Like, if you know my plans and I know your plans and you know that I know that you know, just throw it to number one and let him just like, because you can't counter that, right? Like it's just him being a dude. Chris Waddell says, thank you for the super chat, Chris. My biggest concern is stopping the run game, especially with no Greenlaw. Warner is starting to have a missed tackles problem. Devondre Campbell is no run stopper. It's definitely one of the matchups I had written down. The front seven against Breece Hall, because I do think it could get ugly.
So I was going to take that a step further. I was actually going to say, before we move to the second fill in the blank, I have a secondary one that I think is really important. Mm-hmm. It's whoever that second linebacker is covering Breece Hall. I'm just guessing Fred Warner usually takes the tight ends. I'm guessing they're not going to say, hey, in this matchup, we're going to have you come down and take Breece Hall. Breece Hall is a phenomenal pass catching running back.
Yes.
And is that going to be the way the Jets decide to thwart Nick Bosa in that front four? Say, all right, we're going to squeak Breece Hall out. And if it's that second linebacker who's not really starting caliber, he's only in there because of Greenlaw, we trust Breece Hall to win that matchup over and over. I could see that being, all right, we're just going to pick on this linebacker using Breece Hall.
Daza0187, YouTube channel member, says the key matchup is our run defense against Breece Hall. Like, we're all on the same page here with this. That's definitely, and I almost wonder if the Jets would try to get that started early because they know that Rodgers hasn't played, right? And they know that it's sort of been a weakness of the 49ers, that maybe their plan is like, especially early, we don't want to have a turnover, get the crowd like all pumped up. Like, let's see if we can run it, kind of take the air out of the stadium a little bit, force the 49ers to prove that they can stop it, and then we'll see what we can do in the passing game. I would not be shocked to see a heavy dose of Breece Hall early.
But I'm saying Breece Hall in the passing game.
Okay.
You can thwart that pass rush by leaking out Hall. If I'm the Jets, I'm saying, all right, I know Nick Bosa's coming after Aaron Rodgers. So wherever he's coming from, Breece Hall will have the instruction to just go sit and take that vacated area that Bosa's coming from. And if Rodgers needs to, he'll just dump it off. And if it's that second linebacker that's watching Hall come out of the backfield and needs to cover him, good luck. You can send Hall on a go route. He is a really, really good route runner. He's not quite McCaffrey, but he's in the next argument for being next best. So you could actually run some out routes and things like that with him. I don't trust the second linebacker, whoever it ends up being, covering Breece Hall coming out of the backfield in a pass catching situation. And those are easy things that Rodgers can dump it to avoid sacks.
And we know Rodgers likes to do that and keep his completion percentage up too. He literally cares about that. Daza is back. Thanks again, Daza. Another key matchup is the interior offensive line against Quinnen Williams. Yeah, Quinnen Williams, oh my goodness. He's going to eat in this game. I'm interested to see if Pooney has to go up against him, how he does, since, we're all super high on Dominic Pooney. But like Jake Brendel and Aaron Banks, I think Quinnen Williams is going to eat their lunch, quite frankly.
Yeah, it's funny because that's who the Niners had to decide between, Nick Bosa or Quinnen Williams, and it looks like they couldn't go wrong. Either one they picked, they would have been fine.
Yeah, Williams took a couple years to kind of turn into this, though. Bosa was good immediately. I think the Niners made
Bosa was dominant immediately.
Yeah.
Keenan Williams was good.
Quinnen.
And he's become Quinnen? I thought it was Keenan.
It's Quinnen.
All right, Quinnen Williams was good right off the bat and became great in the last 2 years.
Yeah. And he is freaking great. I mean, anybody that sneezes and blesses themselves and then thanks themselves clearly has got no lack for confidence there. That was one of the greatest moments ever. Chris Waddell is back. Thank you, Chris. Supposedly falls on early down. Demetrius Flanagan falls on early downs and Devondre Campbell on passing downs. Someone asked a question earlier, keeping the faith, said, did we ever find out about D. Winner's MRI? He had an MRI and the results hadn't gotten back the last time Shanahan gave an injury update. Now Kyle's going to speak today, so maybe I'm sure he'll give an update. So we should hopefully get a little clarity there. But you're right. Like I kind of forgot about that because of all the stuff that has happened. It's been a week in 49ers land, but yeah, I'd be interested to see that too because I'd like to see Winners. Obviously, we're all very excited about D. Winners. Okay, next fill in the blank question, Levin. Fill in the blank. Kyle Shanahan is going to feature blank in this game. And don't say Christian McCaffrey because he's featured every game.
Okay, well, then I got to rethink because that's who sprung into my mind right away.
Yes.
I will say this could be a George Kittle game.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
Because I think the Jets, obviously Sauce Gardner's going to win his matchup. Even as good as Brandon Ayuk is, Brandon Ayuk might have a play or two where he beats him, but it's not going to be consistent. Sauce Gardner, in my opinion, is the best cornerback, lockdown corner in the league currently. So then, if you can do one-on-one with Brandon Ayuk and Sauce Gardner, you can cheat on Debo to shut down the wide receivers of the Niners. And that means you're going to have to rely on Kittle beating linebackers, which we know he can beat linebackers. So that's where the passing game should be looking at in the beginning of the game.
I 100% agree. I was going to say George Kittle. The Jets have a very good secondary. To me, the weakness with the Jets, I'm not totally in love with their linebacker. I know CJ Mosley is very good, but I would take Kittle against their linebackers. I was absolutely going to say the same thing. Let 85 eat, man. I'll keep saying it. Blocking is the second best thing George Kittle does. I want to see it early. And like we've talked about too, Levin, like Debo and Kittle, when they make plays early, they just give this team a shot in the arm. They pump it up. They get the stadium and the crowd going. I would love to see that early. Have the Niners come out, get 85 involved, and have it be like, you know what? Super Bowl hangover this. Let's go.
You know what formation I would love to see brought back that we pretty much never see anymore? I would love to see a pro set where it's Jordan Mason and Christian McCaffrey.
Oh, man.
Right? Like, I don't think either one of them are probably good enough blockers, and that's why we probably won't see it. Juice is one of those you don't really want to take him off the field because it's not like he's a bad ball carrier, but there's no actual threat of him carrying. So that the fact that he could carry the ball doesn't matter because, they're not going to do it. I would love to see a pro set, like I said a couple of weeks ago, I was listening to a book on Bo Jackson. They used to run Bo Jackson and Marcus Allen on the field at the same time.
Awesome.
I would love to see that, not frequently, but as like a wrinkle to really throw the defense out of whack. And because you have any option whatsoever. Oh, they're lining up on the right here and they're loading up to stop Christian McCaffrey because he's on the right. Let's go to the left where we got we got numbers on that side, or vice versa. I'd love to see that.
Fish and Chip says, pro set. Levin, do you want Hill Street Blues back as well? I love a good pro set. You know what else you could do? Put Christian McCaffrey and Debo back there in your backfield, right?
Oh, yeah. They have done that some, but
yeah,
not all that frequently. And usually when they do it, it's just, all right, Debo's motioning into the backfield is getting the ball. It's not Debo's motioning in the backfield, and he's going to be the lead blocker for Christian McCaffrey. No.
Yeah, that's not really ideal for anybody. Nick Ellert says, Levin, go further. Put Jacob Cowing in the backfield with the shotgun with Christian McCaffrey. You'd have some speed in the backfield. I'm fascinated.
Take Purdy out, make Christian McCaffrey the quarterback, and now we got an all running back backfield.
Yeah, we've seen that before. I don't think I need to see Christian McCaffrey in at quarterback anytime soon. But I'm fascinated to see how they deploy Jacob Cowing in this game. What is his role? How many snaps does he actually get? I'd be excited to see it. I know they love Jawan Jennings, but I just think that Cowing adds a different aspect, a different element to this offense they really haven't had. He's fast as hell, right? They want that.
Cowing see more special team snaps or offensive snaps? That's a good over-under.
Yeah, probably special teams, I would say, just because I think he's the punt returner, first of all. So
I think he'll be in on kick returns too.
Oh, the kick return, man. I'm nervous because I think teams have been holding their plans close to the vest for the whole preseason. Now it's week 1. I think you're going to see crazy stuff happening, and the 49ers coverage units are not that good.
I think you're going to see like one kickoff per team at the beginning of the game that allows a return, and then every team's going to be like, nope.
Out of the end zone?
Kicking it out of the end zone.
Yeah, could be. It could be. That's my plan for the Niners. Just kick it out of the end zone every time.
Yep.
Why would you? Don't run the risk. The average kick return goes to the 29-yard line anyway, so who cares if they get it at the 30? It's no big deal. That's what I would do. We'll see what they actually do. Next up, and fill in the blank. The biggest thing I'm worried about defensively in this game is?
Well, I think based on what I answered the first one, Garrett Wilson.
I'm going to say Breece Hall. I'm more worried about Breece Hall. We've seen receivers against this 49ers defense have awesome games. Cooper Kupp has torched the 49ers. Devontae Adams has torched the 49ers, and the Niners still win those games. So I feel like it's possible for Garrett Wilson to have a good game and for the Niners to still win. For me, if Breece Hall has like 120 total yards in the game, that's going to be very, very difficult for the 49ers to win unless they somehow force a bunch of turnovers.
Yeah, you're not wrong. And obviously, the biggest question mark coming in on the defense is the run game.
Yes.
They've not been very good at stopping the run in years past, and they haven't done anything to make them better in that regard. They still have Hargrave. They got Malik Collins. Armstead was the best interior guy against the run, and he's gone. So it's certainly a worry there for Breece Hall. If he gets going, the Niners are in trouble.
Fish and Chip says their biggest worry is Nick Sorensen. We don't know what the defense is going to look like, and we don't know how much influence Brandon Staley's having on the individual game plan. I do want to see, like Bosa's talked about, hey, I'm going to drop a little more this year. Maybe that will help because it'll confuse the defense. They might not know what we're doing. Like, how much do we see that on Monday night? Do we see Bosa not have his hand in the dirt and in some different spots? They keep talking about how they want the defense to sort of get back to their roots, but they're also part of the reason Staley is here is to kind of change it up because the 49ers defense has never been a very unpredictable unit in terms of scheme. They kind of just always beat you physically. And I think the Niners want a little bit of that uncertainty this year.
All I know is the first time I see Nick Bosa drop into coverage on 3rd and long, I'm going to be pissed. Yeah. You want to drop him into coverage on 3rd and 4 or something to throw a wrinkle there. whatever. But if it's 3rd and 13 and you're not pass rushing Nick Bosa, what are you doing?
I went back. I was looking around on the YouTube channel yesterday and I found a YouTube short of Nick Bosa after the NFC Championship game. And I had forgotten about this. And Bosa says at halftime in the locker room of the NFC title game, he was flat on his back with a heating pad on his back and he was screaming, just take away their first read and we'll get there. Which to me, it was like, now looking back, considering everything we know about Steve Wilkes and how they fired Steve Wilkes, like, I wonder if literally in the locker room they were like, God damn it, man. Can you just take away one read? Like, I do
Not
wonder.
making it easy. I mean, what do we know about Wilkes? He sits back. He goes, here's all the cushion you want. We're going to keep everything in front of us.
Yeah.
Well, if you have a hot read that's your first read constantly, that's short, which it does seem like that's one of the adjustments teams made against the Niners, then it's going to be open every time because the defense was giving way too much cushion every single play.
It was so frustrating. I mean, some of those, like that Cincinnati game, I was like, my God, Joe Burrow is just, it looked so easy for them. It was incredibly frustrating. Chris Waddell, thank you very much, Chris. I appreciate it. Not our style at all, but I'd love a single back Christian McCaffrey with Jawan Jennings, Debo, Ayuk, Kittle, and Cowing. That's a tough thing to match up with. Bring back Martz, for God's sake. Oh, God. Don't bring back Martz because he never threw to the tight end. Remember that? They had Vernon Davis. He made Vernon Davis like irrelevant. I talked with Vernon the other day, and he said it without really saying it, kind of a thing.
Chris got one too many guys in there, but I get what he's saying.
Yeah,
he wants single back with 3 wide receivers, some combination of JJ, Debo, Ayuk, and Cowing.
Or you could just go shotgun and have them all on the field too.
You could just become a passing team because that's something that you could really thrive in.
Imagine that. I think we're going to see a lot of empty too. I feel like in kind of big situations, the Niners have been going empty more and more, especially as Brock gets more and more comfortable.
Look, if Brock passes just 5 times more per game, he has 85 more passes. If you break that down equally in terms of targets to the different people who had targets last year, that means somebody like Ayuk, he's going to be getting like 2 to 3 more targets per game. Same with Debo. Kittle's going to get 1 to 2 more targets per game. And that means if they're getting catches at the same rate that they were, or even slightly worse, you're going to have Kittle with an extra catch per game. That's 17 catches in a season more. You're going to have Ayuk getting like 1.5 catches per game more. That's 25 more catches per game. Think about the stats and how crazy good of a passing team they would, with just 5 extra passes per game. That's going to be putting Purdy pushing nearly 4,800 yards if he played all 17 games. Like, they could easily become a really, really, really good passing team without becoming pass happy.
Right. People I don't think anybody forgets at this point because we mentioned it a lot, but it's worth saying again, they threw less than any other team in the NFL last year. Throw it more, take more pressure off McCaffrey. There's a very simple, obvious, I feel like, evolution that this offense can make, and we'll have to see if they make it. All right, next up on Fill in the Blank, Levin. Fill in the blank. If it comes down to game management, blank is the head coach I trust to make the right call.
Neither.
I knew you were going to say that. That's why I tried to.
They're both not good at it, so you can't pick one or the other.
Do you trust Kyle more than Saleh? Do you trust Kyle at all? The Rams have made a big deal that they've hired a game management coach because McVay's talked about, using his timeouts too early and all that stuff. The 49ers have a game management specialist on the staff already. I don't know what that person does because they're terrible.
Can I have that job?
Right.
Hey, Kyle, shut up. Oh, okay. Never mind.
I mean, so who is it? Is it Saleh or is it Kyle?
The only thing I can be sure of is it's going to be sure as heck not Brandon Staley from the booth because he might be the worst game management head coach of all time.
I want to see Staley get Kyle to go for it more on 4th downs, damn it.
I would like to see that, but Staley was pretty terrible with his game management. I'm not going to sit here. I don't want to pick because I'll be honest. I've seen some Jets games, but I haven't seen enough to know is Saleh terrible or just bad at it. Because I would put Kyle Shanahan in the he's bad at it, but he's not terrible.
Here's the other thing, and I don't mean to sound like a jerk when I say this. I don't know how much experience Saleh has dealing with that because it's not like the Jets have been in a lot of close games. And I'm not trying to throw shade. It's just the reality of the situation, right? Kyle has been in a lot of games where the management becomes magnified. The closer the game is, how you manage the game takes on more and more importance. Robert Saleh, they've been getting their doors blown in. So maybe he just flat out doesn't have, maybe I have to go with Kyle by default, as much as it pains me to do so.
I would think Saleh is much more willing to go for it, though.
Coaches are scared of consequences, especially Saleh, like you said, who knows this is probably his last dance, right? Is he going to say, F it, I'm going out in a blaze of glory, all gas, no brakes, as he likes to say, and we'll just, whatever, I'll become a defensive coordinator next year if I get fired? Or is he going to be like, no, I can't lose because if I lose, I get fired and then we got to move the family and all this stuff. I don't know. I don't know Robert Saleh well enough to know that, but he may have to make that choice to answer that question multiple times this season because I think the Jets are going to be in some games.
I mean, the Jets 2 years ago, even with bad quarterback play, they were in the playoff hunt till I think like the last couple of weeks they finally got eliminated because they were right around 500.
Mm-hmm.
So I definitely think the Jets are going to be in the picture all season, and I do think the Jets end up squeaking into a wild card spot. I think the AFC East is just not that good. The Dolphins, are the Dolphins better this year than they were last year? I don't think so.
Yeah, I don't know.
And that's about the only competition in that division.
Yeah, I
guess Buffalo. I'm forgetting Buffalo. My bad.
Yeah, they've got they lost a lot of talent too, frankly.
Right. It's not going to be, don't be shocked if the Jets win the division. I still would pick Buffalo. The Dolphins are one of the teams that I am most confident in having a down year. I don't see it from them. I think they had I just saw a stat. Their running back last year had like 30% of all his rushes go for 10 plus. It's like teams had the offseason. They're going to figure out what you're going to do. And without that, they're not nearly as good. So don't be shocked if the Jets have a pretty good season.
Achane is, I think, the running back you're thinking of. I hope not, because he's on my fantasy team. Not that anyone cares. Chris Waddell says defensive coaches tend to be conservative. I think that is true for the most part. They are definitely conservative. It's funny that you mentioned the Dolphins thing, Levin. I don't know if you saw this last night because I'm a glutton for punishment. I threw out my NFL picks for the season for 2024. I don't have the Dolphins making the playoffs.
Speaking of things people don't care about. Stats picks.
I have Jets. If you're not watching on the stream, division winners in the AFC, I have Jets, Ravens, Texans, Chiefs, and the wild card teams are Jim Harbaugh's Chargers, the Bengals, and the Bills. In the NFC, I have the Cowboys, Packers, Falcons, and Niners, with the wild card teams being the Rams, Lions, and Eagles. AFC Championship, I have Chiefs over Jets. NFC Championship, Niners over Rams. And I couldn't even type the outcome of the Super Bowl, but let's just say I'm not betting against Patrick Mahomes. At this point, how can you?
I do find it interesting. You have the Falcons winning that division, and you have Packers over the Lions. I think the Lions are going to be the number one seed. They have a much easier schedule. They have 15 games that are inside, and golf is really good inside, really bad outside.
Yep.
They got a very favorable schedule.
They do. That is
true. I don't
true.
see anything glaring on this. It's like, oh my God, I can't believe you picked that though.
The AFC to me, I was like, I feel pretty confident in that because I think the Jets are going to be very good. The NFC, I didn't want to pick the 49ers again because in my head, I'm like, logically, the odds are that they're not going to get back to the NFC Championship game because it's really hard to keep doing it year after year. But then I kept looking at who I had picked, and I'm like, the Cowboys are not beating the 49ers in the playoffs. The Falcons definitely are not beating the 49ers. The Rams and the 49ers, I would favor the Niners in that matchup. Niners-Lions, I still think the Niners are better. I think if you replayed the NFC Championship game, the Niners are not going down by 17 points again. I really don't. So I was like, I kind of put the Niners back in the NFC Championship game by default, frankly.
The last couple of wild cards, like you could swap out, say, the Rams for Tampa. You know what I mean? but it's kind of like it's this gray area. It's a little more of a murky picture, I think, this year, because usually I think you have like, oh, this team was injured, but they're really good the year before, so they're going to be back, and then these were the teams that were really good last year. So you usually have like 6, 7 teams that you like, these guys are going to be in the playoffs, even if it doesn't come to fruition. You'd be stupid not to pick them. This year, it's like, all right, here's like 3 or 4 teams in the NFC, and then the rest, there's this group of 10 teams.
Yep.
That any of those 10 could get in, and you wouldn't be surprised.
Did you see the Pro Football Talk season predictions?
Pro Football Talks? No.
So that's Mike Florio. He put out his season predictions the other day. He has the Niners making the playoffs. Not shocking. What is shocking is he has the 49ers
I did see this.
losing to the Buccaneers at home in the playoffs. And I'm like, man, if you want to say the 49ers are going to lose in the playoffs, I understand where you're coming from. But to lose to Baker Mayfield and the Buccaneers at home? No, that ain't it.
I'm not a big Bucks fan. Like it's so weird. Like it's like I look at the Rams and I say, well, I don't want to pick them to make the playoffs because their defense is going to be worse without Aaron Donald. But then I go, all right, well then I'll pick Tampa. Oh, I don't want to pick them. They're another year older. Like Mike Evans, the wheels will fall off, and I don't trust Baker Mayfield further than I can throw him. And it's like every team I go, oh, I don't want to pick them. Let me see what the other options are. Ooh, I don't want to pick that one either. Let me go to the next. Ooh, I don't want to pick that.
Yeah, it's always like a glaring thing. That's exactly the boat I was in. Chris Waddell, thank you for the super chat. For all the conspiracy theorists out there, if the writers wanted the Chiefs last year, no way they don't love the three-peat story with a marriage proposal under the confetti. Look, enough good things have happened for the Chiefs, and Travis Kelce, who's also on my fantasy team, can get married without winning a Super Bowl title. In fact, that would be the better story, right? Oh, they had the heartbreak of not winning a Super Bowl, but hey, I got married to the most famous person on the planet. That'd be, or got engaged, I should say.
Did you see the NFL promo video for the season?
Are you referring to the fact that Taylor Swift is drawing up plays?
No, so they put out like a promo video that like teased all the different teams and everything. It's for the entire season.
Oh, okay.
In that video, Taylor Swift was shown, I think it was either 5 or 6 times. Somebody counted it, and I saw that tweet. But Taylor Swift was shown 5 or 6 times. Lamar Jackson, the reigning MVP, was shown once.
NFL knows.
That it just shows they don't want this to end anytime soon.
Why would they? The most famous person on the planet is bringing eyeballs to their product. Like, they don't care. Like, they'll take more. The NFL just wants more, man. So I don't blame them. I saw that Taylor Swift, like, she has actually become like a big football fan now because of Travis Kelce. And I think Mahomes told Chris Sims, like, she's literally drawing up plays. It's like, oh, wouldn't that be the ultimate punch in the crotch if the 49ers lost to the Chiefs on a play that Taylor Swift drew up? Like, Andy Reid doesn't need the help. He's already the best offensive mind of his generation.
Just wait till the Super Bowl and the play will be all right. These 5 guys that sit in front of the quarterback, I don't know what they're called, but they can just tackle their opposing because the ref won't call it. And then
you know what? That would be very astute by Taylor Swift. So she's right. She would be
I'll
right.
make a call to Goodell before the game and allow that to happen.
Okay, I think we have gone through all of my... Oh, no. You know what? I forgot about this one. We have one last fill in the blank that we didn't get to. Fill in the blank, Levin. Jake Moody will miss blank kicks in this game.
I'll say 0 in this game. I'm nervous for him because he's going to go one of 2 ways. He had a good rookie season, but not a great rookie season, and he's either going to improve on it or he's going to remain that same kicker. And if you remain a mid to low 80% kicker in the NFL, you don't last very long these days. That used to be crazy good, and you would make the Hall of Fame if you kicked that in the 80s. But kicking has become a thing where you are expected to make every last kick within 50 yards, period.
Pretty much. And especially Moody. Moody can't miss a kick ever because of where he was drafted. A lot of people are predicting 1 miss for Jake Moody. As Raul says, isn't his miss average once per game? They say
you're on a kickoff.
They say your biggest improvement comes from year 1 to year 2. Moody came out of the gate last year and he was awesome. Remember, he made 3 field goals and 3 extra points in week 1. Then he did it again in week 2. Then he did it again in week 3. He was 9 for 9 on his first 9 field goals and his first 9 extra points. Then he didn't kick any field goals against Arizona, but he made all 5 extra points. Then he made 6 extra points the week after. He had the longest streak ever. He has the record for most consecutive extra points made. I believe it's like 61 or something like that. I hope he does well. I really do. I liked him. I like talking to him at the Super Bowl. I like the fact that he said he would rather have to kick the game winner in the Super Bowl than have the Niners win by 10. I think that's the right mentality. I know people freak out whenever he misses a kick. Like, he's going to miss a field goal this year. Just letting you know, people, like, brace yourself for it. It's going to happen. I just hate that, like, he has to be perfect. He's the only guy in the NFL that has to be perfect at his job.
I can't wait for Wishnowsky to miss a single punt, and people are going to be, bring back Percy, bring back Percy. It's like, he wasn't that good. There's a reason why he got released.
Third string All-Pro says Rob fangirling over Taylor Swift is peak liberal. It's not fangirling to say she's the most famous person on the planet. She is. Like, it's not really debatable. I mean, who are you going to put up against her? Sorry that you're so sensitive that bothers you, that a man giving praise to a woman is really riling you up there. Sorry. Feel free to log off at any time. All right, Levin, that's all the fill in the blanks I had. Before we go, let me get a final score prediction from you. If you are curious, I believe the over-under for the game is 43.5.
I will say 23-13 Niners. Lots of field goals. I think they'll be, they got the 30-yard play, so now they're in field goal range, and then the drive stalls.
Man, 23 points. I think I would take 23 points against, and we'll have the game, and I'll be in the instant reaction show, and people will be like, oh, they only scored 23 points. Is something wrong with the offense? I'm going to be sitting there being like, do not worry. Like, calm down. It's a really good defense. 23 points is a good showing. I mean, just off the top of my head, let me see if I can bring this up really quickly. How many times did the Jets give up 23 points or more last year? Even with a terrible offense, I bet it's not very many.
Yeah, I bet it would be more than you would expect, because they were definitely a team that was kind of mentally down in the dumps towards the end of the year.
2, I see 3, 4, 5, 6 times. Okay, it's actually more than I thought. They had a couple of really bad losses.
How many times did the Niners
give up more than 23?
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, no.
They didn't for a long time there, because everybody liked it. The Cleveland game was, they only gave 22 points.
More than 23. Cincinnati put up 31 on them. And Arizona put up 29 in week 15. The Baltimore put up 33. So 3 times, I think, all year. Again, they were third in points allowed per game in the league. So they did not give up a lot of points. I'm going to say, I haven't given a final score prediction. I'm going to say 23-17. Is that what you said? I don't even remember what you said.
I said 23-13.
Okay, so I'll go 23-17. All right, so I don't feel that bad. As far as I know, Hassan Reddick still hasn't reported, so that'll make me feel a little better about it.
He did not report today. I saw that.
Yeah, good. Feel free to take the week off, Hassan Reddick. I don't need you to blow up Brock Purdy's UCL again.
Yeah, I mean, you brought it up. Let's touch on it. Hassan Reddick is not the type of guy that should be holding up. Whatever they're offering you, take it, because this is your last year. If you sit out until week 10 and then report, you're not getting a big contract next year. Like, take what you're getting at this point.
Don't care. Not my problem. Can't imagine not having all your stars signed by week 1. Couldn't be me.
Yeah.
That's all I'm saying.
You could imagine it, because you were imagining it just 2 days ago.
Well, I don't have to imagine it anymore, baby. They're all here. They're all back, and we are ready to go. If this is your first time watching, thank you. We appreciate it. Please give us a like and a subscribe on the YouTube channel, or you can follow the audio podcast wherever you get your audio podcast. We're live every single weekday. We do instant reaction shows immediately following the game, whenever the game is. So we will be live on Monday night, or maybe Tuesday morning by the time the game gets over, whatever it is here on the East Coast. But we'll be live for that. So please join us. If you're unfamiliar, I promise, just give us a chance and we will continue to earn your time. Levin is not going to be with me on the instant reaction show. Not happy about that. But hopefully Vish Kumaran will hop in because it's his normal day on Mondays. So regardless, we will have an instant reaction show. Levin, what are your plans for football Sunday?
Sitting with my feet up, watching my Sunday ticket.
You know I go with the 3 H's on Sunday. Have I ever told you this, especially week 1? 3
Nope.
H's. Hot wings, Heineken, Haagen-Dazs. That's what I do week 1 every year in the football season. It's a fantastic combination. I highly recommend it. That's what I will. As much as annoyed as I will be to have to wait the extra day to watch the Niners, I will enjoy the first Sunday of the year with no stress. It's just going to be sit back and enjoy Scott Hansen, 7 hours of commercial-free football. Like, it's going to be glorious.
2 things. 1, spoken like a guy that can't put on a single ounce of weight. 2, Heineken, yuck.
Ugh, Heineken's fine. Don't be a snob. Diego.
I'm not a snob. Like, I don't like crazy, I'm not one of those like, ooh, I got to have a craft beer. I can't even remember the last craft beer I bought, but I've never liked Heineken.
If it's got alcohol in it, I'll drink it pretty much. Diego says he goes 30 chicken nuggets. Okay. Fish and chips agrees with you. Heineken's weak.
I do tend to do wings. I don't like planning it, but I usually I get in wing mode when it comes to football season. It's like, what do I want to eat? Oh, wings. Yeah, that sounds good.
Hell
so there's a good chance I order wings.
Fish and Chips says, Levin, are you holding out of the instant reaction show?
No, because it's going to cost me a lot of money not being in the instant reaction shows, most likely. It's just this year, Goodell and the NFL are a bunch of jerks and did not confer with me about my schedule. And a lot of the Niner games happen either they're like an early game when I'm working daylights, so I won't be home until after the game, or they're a night game when I'm working nights, and thus I'll be at work, which is what this Monday game is. I can't remember the exact number. I looked when the schedule first came out, and I think it was like 7 games that I was not going to be available for.
That's troubling. I guess I'll have to keep the money. Heineman says wings and mayo. That is the worst Twitch that we've ever got. Wings, mayo?
That's why you don't support the Twitch guys.
I don't know. Maybe that's other people can say if they like it. That is not.
Sign me too. Get your guy in line, huh?
Chris Waddell, thank you very much again. Pooney starting trial by fire against Quentin Williams. Yeah, Pooney's going to start for sure. I'm interested to see how he does hold up against Quentin Williams. If he comes out and he holds his own, he didn't have to dominate, but if he holds his own, that would be damn impressive. Game 1, Monday Night Football against one of the best defensive tackles in the league. Yeah, I would feel way better about Dominic Pooney than I already do, and I feel great about him right now.
Speaking of feeling great, did we ever go back and confirm who had the better Ayuk prediction?
No, but somebody actually sent a comment in on the stream with Steph yesterday and said, hey, don't think we forgot. So we got to go back and do that. I'm sure.
I just remember you made me go first. And I remember being we should have written this down, because I went and then you adjusted the number 500,000 one way or the other. But I don't remember if you went under or over. But this was back before the wide receiver market exploded. And I know for a fact what I predicted, because I had it as a pinned tweet for a long time. And it was 25.5 million per. So
what do we do if we're both horribly off? Do we both have to pay off the bet?
We're both going to be horribly off, because I did 25.5. I know that. So you either did 26 per or you did 25 per, and I can't remember which way you went. But I just remember being annoyed. I was like, you just used my numbers and adjusted it slightly.
You're shocked by this? I mean, come on. This is what I do. Annoying you is a prime directive on any show that we do together. All right. That's going to do it.
At least I got everybody else on my side of it. Steph tries to annoy you. Vish was upset that I insulted him on the Monday show rather than you.
Well, I'm glad that everyone has made it their life's ambition to make the vein in my forehead finally pop after all these years. But week 1 is here. Let's embrace it. Let's enjoy it. We're ready to be heard again. 49ers, Super Bowl or bust, 2024. Let's get it. Levin, thank you so much for joining me on today's show. I guess I'll talk to you next week, although I'm sure we'll be texting on Sunday. As soon as the Jets get a lead, I'll text you that the game is over. as I typically do, and we can get back to the business of football season. Have a good weekend, everybody.